The space station 7 floated silently in the darkness between stars. It was old and tired, its metal walls marked with years of use. The station orbited a massive gas giant, a planet of swirling purple and orange clouds that filled the observation windows like a painting that never stopped moving. Walked through the lower decks with a toolbox in his hand. He was a maintenance engineer, which meant he fixed things that broke. On a station this old, something was always breaking. Today it was a faulty air recycler in Cargo Bay 12. A simple job, maybe an hour of work, then he could return to his small room and sleep. The lower decks were quiet. Most crew members avoided this area. It was cold down here, far from the main heating systems, and the lights flickered in ways that made people uncomfortable, but did not mind. He liked the silence. He liked being alone with his thoughts and his tools. He reached Cargo Bay 12 and pressed his hand against the door panel. The door slid open with a tired groan. Inside, the bay was filled with metal crates stacked in tall rows. The air recycler hummed badly in the corner, making a sound like a sick animal. Set down his toolbox and walked toward the machine. He was halfway across the bay when he heard something else. A different sound, soft, almost like breathing. He stopped. His hand moved slowly to the small flashlight on his belt. He pulled it out and pointed it toward the sound. Behind a stack of crates, 2 golden eyes stared back at him. Did not scream. He did not run. He simply stood very still and watched. The eyes blinked. They were large and round with vertical pupils like a cat, but they were not a cat's eyes. They were too big, too bright, and they held something recognized immediately. Fear. He lowered his flashlight slightly, so the beam was not directly in those eyes. He crouched down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. "Hello," he said quietly. "I am not going to hurt you." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, a figure emerged from behind the crates. She was not human. Her skin was covered in fine scales that shimmered between deep blue and purple. 2 small horns curved back from her forehead, and a pair of wings pressed tightly against her back. She was thin, too thin, and her clothes were torn and dirty. Her hands ended in claws, but those claws were wrapped around herself like she was trying to disappear. A Draconian had heard of them. Everyone in the galaxy had heard of them. They were warriors, fire-breathers, feared across 100 star systems. Their empire was ancient and proud, built on strength and flame. But this one did not look like a warrior. She looked like a scared child. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was rough, like she had not used it in a long time. "Please do not tell anyone I am here." Studied her for a moment. He noticed the scars then. They ran across her arms, her neck, disappearing beneath her torn clothing. Burned scars, old ones healed badly. Someone had hurt her. Someone had hurt her with fire. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "I am." He sat down on the cold floor, crossing his legs. "How long have you been hiding here?" 3 days, maybe 4. I do not know any more." "Have you eaten?" She shook her head. Reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a nutrition bar. He always carried one for long shifts. He held it out to her. She stared at it like it might bite her. "It is food," he said gently. "It tastes bad, but it will fill your stomach." Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took the bar. Her clawed fingers brushed against his hand. She flinched at the contact, then quickly pulled back. She unwrapped the bar and ate it in 3 bites, barely chewing. Watched her without speaking. When she finished, he asked the question that had been forming in his mind. "Why are you running?" His golden eyes dropped to the floor. For a moment he thought she would not answer. Then, in a voice so quiet he almost could not hear it, she spoke. "I cannot breathe fire." "Blinked what?" "I am Draconian. We are born with fire in our blood. It is who we are. It is everything." Her voice cracked. "But when I try, nothing comes, only smoke, only failure. My clan said I was cursed. They said the fire had to be forced out of me." She touched the scars on her arm without looking at them. They tried to burn it into me. They held me over flames when I was small. They said if I felt enough fire from outside, the fire inside would wake up. A tear rolled down her scaled cheek. It never did. I only screamed. And when I grew older, when I was still broken, they said I had to leave. I was a shame to them, a disgrace. Felt something tighten in his chest. Anger, sadness, a feeling he could not quite name. So you ran, he said. I hid on a cargo ship, then another, I ended up here. She finally looked at him again and her eyes were filled with hopeless acceptance. You will report me. They will send me back. I understand. Was quiet for a long moment. He looked at this girl, this dragon who feared fire, this warrior who had never been allowed to be anything but broken. He thought about rules. He thought about regulations. He thought about all the reasons he should walk to the nearest communication panel and call security. Then he stood up and walked to his toolbox. He opened it, pulled out a small thermal blanket and brought it back to her. It gets cold down here at night, he said, draping it over her shoulders. I will bring you more food tomorrow. Stay hidden, stay quiet. Stared at him with wide, confused eyes. Why would you help me? Smiled, though it was a sad smile. Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. He picked up his toolbox and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. I will come back tomorrow, I promise. Then he stepped out, and the door closed behind him, leaving her alone in the darkness with nothing but a blanket and a small, fragile spark of hope. 3 weeks passed like water through open fingers. Every day found reasons to visit the lower decks. A broken pipe here, a faulty sensor there. The other engineers joked that he was becoming obsessed with Cargo Bay 12. He laughed with them and said nothing. Waited for him each time. She no longer hid behind the crates when he entered. Instead, she sat on a makeshift bed he had built from old blankets and foam padding, her wings folded neatly behind her, her golden eyes watching the door until it opened. Brought her food, real food, not just nutrition bars. He smuggled warm rice from the cafeteria, wrapped in cloth to keep the heat. He brought vegetables and sometimes small pieces of meat. Ate everything he gave her, always quickly, always grateful. But food was not the only thing he brought. He brought stories. Was not a great storyteller. He stumbled over words and forgot details, but listened to him like he was speaking ancient wisdom. He told her about Earth, the human he had never seen but knew from pictures and recordings. He told her about blue oceans and green forests and cities that touched the clouds. He told her about snow, about rain, about the way the sun looked when it set over mountains. And he told her about fire. This part always made her tense. Her scales would shift color slightly, becoming darker, and her claws would grip her blanket tightly. But she never asked him to stop. She listened, even when it hurt. On Earth, said one evening, sitting cross-legged on the floor across from her, humans gather around fires at night, not for war, not for punishment, just to be together. Tilted her head. I do not understand. Fire burns, fire hurts. Why would anyone choose to be near it? Thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his personal tablet and tapped the screen. A video began to play. It showed a family sitting around a campfire in a forest. Children laughed and poked sticks into the flames. Parents wrapped arms around each other, watching the sparks rise into the night sky. Someone was singing, a soft and simple song. Leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the light from the screen. They are not afraid, she whispered. No, agreed, they are not. But the fire could hurt them, it could burn them. It could, but they trust it, they control it. They use it to cook food, to stay warm, to see in the darkness. He paused. Fire is not good or bad, it is just energy. What matters is how you use it. What matters is intention. Was silent for a long time. She watched the video play again and again, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. My people do not see it this way. For Draconians, fire is power. Fire is dominance. The stronger your flame, the more respected you are. Those without fire are nothing, less than nothing. Her voice dropped. I was nothing. Reached out slowly. He had learned not to make sudden movements around her. His hand came to rest on top of her clawed fingers. She flinched but did not pull away. You are not nothing, he said firmly. You are brave and strong, and you survived things that would have broken most people. Fire or no fire, that matters. That is worth something. She looked at his hand on hers. Human skin against draconian scales, warmth against cold. You are strange, she said quietly. Humans are strange. He smiled. We get that a lot. The next day, everything changed. Was working in the engineering bay when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed across the station. A voice came through the speakers, calm but urgent. Attention all crew. Distress signal received from mining colony Gamma 7. Pirate attack in progress. All combat-capable personnel report to the shuttle bay. This is not a drill. Set down his tools. He was not combat personnel. He was an engineer. But he knew that when pirates attacked, everyone who could fight was expected to help. He made his way to the shuttle bay quickly. Around him, crew members ran in organized chaos, pulling on armor and checking weapons. Commander stood at the center, barking orders with sharp precision. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes like steel. No one dared disobey her. Found his assigned shuttle and climbed aboard. The seats were filled with other crew members, some nervous, some excited, some simply blank. A young man sat next to him, barely out of his teens. His name tag read. First combat mission? Asked. Nodded quickly. Yes, sir, yes, is it bad? Wanted to lie. He wanted to say everything would be fine. But he remembered who had been lied to her whole life by people who should have protected her. It might be, he said honestly. Stay close to me, do what I do, we will get through it together. The shuttle launched. Through the small window, watched the station grow smaller behind them. Somewhere in the lower decks, hidden in cargo bay 12, was alone. He had not been able to say goodbye. He had not been able to tell her he was leaving. He did not know if he would come back. The shuttle shook as it entered the atmosphere of the moon where the mining colony sat. Smoke rose from the colony in thick black columns, gripped his seat and closed his eyes. He thought about fire, about how it could destroy, about how it could warm. And he hoped with everything he had that he would live long enough to show the difference. Back on the station, sat alone in the cargo bay. She had heard the alarms. She had heard the announcements. She did not know what was happening, but she knew had not come at his usual time. She found the station's communication frequency on an old terminal had given her. She was not supposed to use it. She was not supposed to exist, but she needed to know. She listened. She heard chaos, she heard screaming, she heard weapons fire. And then she heard his voice, shouting orders, pushing forward, refusing to give up. She heard him cry out in pain. She heard him laugh right after, taunting the enemy, daring them to try again. Her claws dug into the terminal so hard they left marks in the metal. Her wings trembled. Her chest burned with something she did not understand. She waited, she listened. She prayed to gods she had stopped believing in. And somewhere in the darkness of space, between stars that did not care about dragons or humans or fire, a battle raged on. The mining colony was burning. Smoke filled the narrow corridors and made it hard to breathe. Pressed forward with his team, stepping over broken machinery and shattered glass. The pirates had hit hard and fast, and the colony's defenders had fallen quickly. But the people inside were still alive, could hear them, crying, screaming, calling for help. They were trapped in the central shelter, and the pirates were trying to break through the door. We need to flank them, said to the crew members around him. If we go straight, they will cut us down. A security officer named nodded. He was older than, with scars on his face from previous battles. There is a maintenance shaft to the left. It leads behind their position, but it is narrow. Only one or two can fit. "I will go," said immediately. Grabbed his arm. "You are an engineer. You are not trained for this." "I know the shafts better than anyone." Pulled free. "Cover me. When you hear the explosion, push forward." Before anyone could argue, ran. The maintenance shaft was dark and cramped. His shoulders scraped against the walls as he crawled through. The metal was hot from the fires burning elsewhere in the colony. Sweat dripped down his face and stung his eyes, but he did not stop. He counted the turns in his head. Left, right, left. He had memorized the colony's layout before they landed. It was what engineers did. They learned systems. They understood how things connected. After what felt like forever, he reached a grate that looked down into the main corridor. Below him, he could see the pirates. There were 6 of them, big and armored, firing at the shelter door with plasma weapons. The door was starting to melt. Had no weapon. He had grabbed a welding torch before leaving the shuttle, but that was it. A tool, not a gun. He smiled. Sometimes tools were enough. He kicked the grate open and dropped. The pirates did not expect an attack from above. Landed on one of them, driving his elbow into the man's helmet. The pirate went down hard. Before the others could react, grabbed a thermal grenade from the fallen pirate's belt and threw it at the wall behind them. The explosion shook the corridor. The ceiling cracked. The pirates scattered in confusion. Now screamed into his communicator, "Push now." The rest of the crew came around the corner, weapons blazing. The fight was brutal and short. Plasma bolts flew through the smoke. Bodies fell. Swung his welding torch like a club, its flame cutting through armor when it connected. A bolt hit his shoulder. The pain was incredible, like someone had pressed molten metal into his flesh. He staggered but did not fall. He saw across the corridor, frozen in fear, a pirate aiming at his head. Did not think, he ran. He crashed into the pirate just as the weapon fired. The bolt went wide, burning a hole in the wall, and the pirate fell to the ground in a tangle of limbs. His burned shoulder screamed in protest, but he forced himself to move. He grabbed the pirate's head and slammed it against the floor. Once, twice, 3 times. The pirate stopped moving. Rolled onto his back, breathing hard. The ceiling above him was cracked and smoking. His shoulder was on fire. His whole body hurt. But the gunfire had stopped. Appeared above him, reaching down a hand. "You crazy fool," he said, but there was respect in his voice. "That was either the bravest or the thing I have ever seen." "Why not both?" Took the hand and pulled himself up. He looked at who was staring at him with wide eyes. "You okay?" Nodded slowly. You saved my life." "You would have done the same." Clapped him on the shoulder with his good hand. "Come on, we need to get these people out." The shelter door opened. Inside, nearly 50 colonists huddled together, terrified but alive. Children clung to parents. Elderly held each other's hands. They looked at the crew with tears in their eyes. "Thank you," a woman whispered. "Thank you, we thought we were going to die." Smiled through the pain. "Not today." The evacuation took hours. Shuttles flew back and forth between the colony and the station, carrying the wounded and the saved. Refused treatment until everyone else was taken care of. He walked through the ruins, helping carry stretchers, offering words of comfort, ignoring the blood soaking through his bandages. Finally, it was his turn. The shuttle that carried him back to 7 was quiet. Most of the crew were asleep, exhausted from the battle. Leaned against the window and watched the stars drift by. His shoulder throbbed. His body ached, but he was alive. He thought about. He wondered if she was scared. He wondered if she had heard what happened. He wondered if she thought he was dead. The shuttle docked. The doors opened. Medical teams rushed in to collect the wounded. And then he saw her. Stood at the edge of the docking bay, her wings half spread, her golden eyes searching frantically through the crowd. She was not supposed to be there. Anyone could see her. Anyone could report her. She did not care. When she spotted him on the stretcher, she ran. Security officers shouted at her. She ignored them. She pushed through the crowd until she was at his side, her clawed hand reaching for his face. "You are hurt," she whispered. Her voice was shaking. "I am alive," he said. He was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he smiled. "I promised I would come back." Tears rolled down her scaled cheeks. "You are insane. You humans are completely insane." "Maybe." He reached up and touched her hand. His fingers were cold, hers were warm. "But I am here." Commander appeared behind. Her face was unreadable as she looked at the draconian girl standing in the middle of her docking bay. "We will talk about this later," she said Then to the medical team, "Get him to the infirmary. He has lost too much blood." As they carried him away, kept his eyes on until the doors closed between them. He had survived. Now came the harder part. Spent 5 days in the infirmary. The plasma burn on his shoulder was deep, and the doctors said he was lucky to keep his arm. He did not feel lucky. He felt impatient. He wanted to see. He wanted to know if she was safe. On the 3rd day, Commander came to visit him. She sat in the chair beside his bed and said nothing for a long time. Her gray eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. Finally, she spoke. "The draconian girl. How long have you been hiding her?" "Did not see the point in lying. Almost a month." "A month?" Let out a slow breath. "Do you know what the penalty is for harboring an illegal alien on a Galactic Union station?" "I do." "And you did it anyway." Met her eyes, yes. Was quiet again. Then unexpectedly she smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was there. "I knew about her after the first week," she said. "The motion sensors in the lower decks, the extra food disappearing from the cafeteria. You are not as clever as you think." He blinked. "You knew." "I knew." "Then why did you not report her? Why did you not stop me?" Leaned back in her chair. "Because I watched her, through the cameras. I saw the way she flinched at shadows. I saw the scars on her body. I saw the terror in her eyes." She paused. "And I saw the way she relaxed when you were with her, the way she started to smile, the way she began to look like a person instead of a ghost." Did not know what to say. "Humans do not abandon the wounded," continued, "and we do not punish those who protect them. That is not who we are. That is not who I want this crew to be." She stood up and moved toward the door. "When you are well, come to my office. We will discuss her future. Until then, rest. That is an order." She left, stared at the ceiling, and let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. 2 days later, he was released from the infirmary. His shoulder was still bandaged, and he was told not to do heavy work for at least a month. He ignored most of those instructions. The first thing he did was find. She had been given a small room near the crew quarters. It was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a desk, but it was hers. When knocked on the door, she opened it so quickly he wondered if she had been waiting on the other side. "You are okay," she said. It was not a question. "I am okay." She stepped aside to let him in. Her room was empty except for the furniture. No decorations, no personal items. It looked like no one lived there at all. "The commander said I can stay," said quietly. "She said I have provisional asylum. I am not sure what that means." "It means you are safe." Sat on the edge of her bed. His shoulder ached, but he ignored it. "It means no one is sending you back." Stood in the corner, her arms wrapped around herself. Even now, even after everything, she looked like she was waiting for something bad to happen. "I still cannot breathe fire," she whispered. "I am still broken." "You are not broken." "My people would disagree." Thought about this, then he had an idea. "Come with me," he said. He took her to the station's small kitchen. It was late at night, and no one else was there. He found a candle in one of the drawers and set it on the counter. "What is this?" asked. A candle, pulled out a small igniter and lit the wick. A tiny flame danced to life, orange and warm. "Watch." Tensed, her eyes locked onto the flame with the same fear he had seen the first night he met her. But she did not run. "Fire is not your enemy," said softly. "Fire is not punishment. Fire is just fire. It can hurt, yes, but it can also give light. It can give warmth. It can cook food and heat homes and guide lost travelers through the night." He picked up the candle and held it toward her. "Hold it," he said. Shook her head quickly. "I cannot." "You can. I believe in you." Her hands trembled as she reached out. Her clawed fingers wrapped around the base of the candle. The flame flickered but did not go out. "It is warm," she said, surprised. "That is all it is," smiled, "just warmth." They practiced every night after that. Candles first, then small cooking flames, then the heating system in her room, which she learned to adjust instead of fear. Slowly, carefully, began to change. She stopped flinching at sparks. She stopped tensing when someone mentioned fire. She even laughed once when accidentally burned his dinner. But she still could not produce her own flame. Whenever she tried, only smoke came out. She would close her eyes and concentrate, and nothing would happen, and the shame would return to her face like a shadow. "It is okay," always told her. "There is no rush. You are enough as you are." She never believed him, but she appreciated that he said it. Then came the night when everything changed. A power failure hit the station without warning. An asteroid had struck one of the solar collectors, cutting off energy to several sections. Emergency systems kicked in, but some areas were left in darkness. And we're in Cargo Bay 12 when it happened. The lights went out. The heating died. The temperature began to drop immediately. "The emergency doors have sealed," said, checking his communicator. "No signal. We are cut off." Looked at him. "How long until someone comes?" "I do not know. Could be hours." The cold grew worse. His breath became visible in the air. His injured shoulder began to ache more deeply. Humans were not built for cold. Without heat, he would become sick. Without heat for long enough, he would die. Watched him shiver. She watched his lips turn pale. She felt something rise in her chest, something hot, something desperate. "I will not let you die," she said. Smiled weakly. "I am not planning on it." "No, you do not understand." She knelt in front of him and took his cold hands in hers. "I will not let you die. I cannot. You are the first person who ever saw me as something other than broken. You are the first person who ever gave me warmth." She closed her eyes. She thought about campfires and hearths. She thought about families gathered in the light. She thought about smile when he handed her a candle. Fire is not punishment. Fire is just energy. It is what you do with it that matters. She opened her mouth, and for the first time in her life, breathed fire. The flame was small, gentle, golden. It did not roar or rage. It simply glowed, soft and steady, filling the cargo bay with warmth. Stared at her with wide eyes. "You did it," he breathed. Looked at the flame coming from her mouth. Tears rolled down her face, but she was smiling. "I did it," she whispered. "I finally did it." She kept the flame burning until rescue arrived. It was not a warrior's fire. It was not a weapon. It was a gift. And it kept them both alive. 6 months had passed since the night breathed her first fire. The Station 7 had changed. There were new faces in the corridors, new ships docking at the bays, and new stories being told in the cafeteria. But the biggest change walked through the station every morning with blue-purple scales and wings folded neatly against her back. Was no longer a stowaway. She was no longer hiding. She was a crew member now with an official badge and an official title, Thermal Systems Specialist. The title had been Idea. The job was simple. used her fire to assist with emergency heating, hull repairs, and any situation that required precise, controlled flames. She was very good at it. The crew had accepted her slowly at first. Some were nervous. Draconians had a reputation, after all, but was quiet and kind. She helped without being asked. She thanked people for small things. She smiled shyly when someone complimented her work. The young man had saved during the pirate attack became her first friend outside of. He taught her how to play human card games. She taught him 3 words in Draconian. They argued about whose culture made better desserts. Commander assigned to safety drills. When the station practiced evacuations, flew through the corridors faster than anyone could run, carrying emergency supplies and guiding people to safe zones. The children on the station loved her. They called her the Fire Lady and asked her to breathe small flames for them, which she did, carefully and gently, always making sure no one got too close. Life was good. Life was better than had ever imagined it could be. But news traveled fast among the stars. Word of the Draconian who lived among humans reached the High Council was furious. They called it an embarrassment. They called it a betrayal. A broken dragon living happily with weak, fireless creatures. It was an insult to their entire species. They sent a messenger. He arrived on a diplomatic ship, tall and armored, his scales deep red and his eyes burning with barely contained disgust. His name was Counselor, and he came with a demand: return the defective one or face consequences. Commander met him in the docking bay, stood beside her. So did, though every muscle in her body wanted to run. She is a citizen of this station, said calmly. She has asylum, she has rights. Your demand is. Looked at like she was garbage. She has no fire, she is worthless. You protect nothing but shame. She has fire, said quietly. Turned to him, his lip curled. You are human, you do not speak in matters of dragons. She breathed fire to save my life. Did not look away. She kept me warm when I was dying. That is more than fire, that is love. Laughed a cruel and mocking sound. Love, humans and their weak emotions. Fire is strength. Fire is power. Fire is meant to destroy enemies, not warm, fragile creatures who cannot survive a little cold. Stepped forward. Her heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. You are wrong. Stared at her. What did you say? I said you are wrong. She stood taller, her wings spreading slightly behind her. For my whole life I believed what you believe. I believed fire was only for war. I believed I was broken because I could not burn things. I believed I was worthless. She took another step forward. But humans taught me something different. They taught me that fire can be gentle, it can be kind, it can keep people alive instead of killing them, it can build instead of destroy. She met's eyes without flinching. That is not weakness, that is strength you are too blind to see. His claws twitched. For a moment it seemed like he might attack her. Then spoke. Leave our station, Counselor. Your demand has been refused. If the Draconian Council wishes to escalate this matter, they can take it up with the Galactic Union. Until then, you are not welcome here. Looked around the docking bay. He saw humans standing with their arms crossed, their eyes hard. He saw with his hand on his weapon. He saw the entire crew of 7 standing behind one broken dragon as if she were one of their own. Because she was. Without another word, turned and walked back to his ship. The doors closed. The ship departed. Let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like hours. Put his hand on her shoulder. You okay? I am okay. She looked at him and smiled. It was a real smile, full and bright, showing all her teeth. Among Draconians, that was the highest sign of trust. Thank you for everything. You did that yourself, said. I just reminded you that you could. That night and stood on the observation deck. Through the massive window, they watched a distant star collapse into a nebula. The light was beautiful. Brilliant oranges and reds painted the darkness like an explosion frozen in time. "My people believe fire is sacred because it destroys," said softly. "They worship it because it can burn down worlds." Stood beside her close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "And what do you believe?" She thought for a long moment. "I believe fire is sacred because it can warm those who are cold." She turned to look at him. "It can light the way for those who are lost. It can make a home, even in the emptiness between stars." Smiled. "That sounds right to me." "Humans are strange creatures," said. "You have no scales, you cannot breathe fire, you cannot fly, and yet you taught a dragon how to be brave." "Maybe that is what makes us human," replied. "We do not have claws or wings or flames, so we had to learn other ways to survive. We had to learn to help each other, to care for each other, to turn enemies into friends and fear into hope." Leaned against his shoulder. She was warm, he was warm too. "Do you think there are others like me?" she asked. "Other dragons who are afraid of what they are supposed to be?" "I am sure there are." "Then maybe I can help them. Maybe I can show them what you showed me." Nodded. "I think that is a wonderful idea." They stood together in the glow of the dying star, two beings from different worlds who had found something rare and precious in each other. Not love exactly, not yet, but something close, something that could grow. Somewhere in the galaxy, word was spreading. A dragon who could not breathe fire had learned to burn, not with rage or destruction, but with warmth and kindness. Other broken ones heard the story and began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they were not broken at all. Did not know it yet, but she had started something, a movement, a change, a fire that would spread not to destroy but to heal. And at the center of it all was a simple truth that humans had known for thousands of years. Fire was not sacred because it could burn. Fire was sacred because it could keep you alive in the darkness. And in the end, that was all that mattered.